Hello and welcome to Focus, where we focus on community, unity, and service. I'm your host, Mark Warnock, and today we're here at the Enfield Historical Society Museum here in Enfield, Connecticut, located right on Enfield Street. We're going to go inside, we're going to talk to Peter Sorensen, the president of the Historical Society. He's going to give us a tour of the museum and show us all the cool stuff we have inside. So stay tuned for more here in Focus. All right, and now we're here inside the museum with the director. Is that
President,
what
you call me whatever you'd like.
Director of the museum, Peter Sorensen. Thanks for giving us some time to go around the museum.
Yeah.
I've been here when I was a kid a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I think last time was probably in high school, which was around years ago. Tell us about how you got started with the organization.
Well, it's kind of a funny story. When I first arrived in town, I was looking for something to do, and I didn't discover it was already there, but I found the Scantic River. So I took my sister, my daughter, one of her friends, and my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, out on a trip along the Scantic River. So we arrived there, and there's a little kiosk right outside the entrance, and there's a maybe 8.5, 11 sheet of paper there with a few lines on it. One of the lines happened to say that there was a powder mill, gunpowder mill, that had exploded and in 1913, 1912, something like that. And I said, well, there's got to be more to that. And it said there was a peddler had bought 500 acres. I said, well, how's a peddler make enough money to buy 500 acres? And why in God's name does he just wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to start a gunpowder mill in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah.
So that had me starting to think about why this entity was created along the Scantic River in Enfield, Connecticut. So I said, I'm a naturally curious guy, so I began a book about that. It was the first book that I wrote here when I arrived on town, and because I needed some help in backstory, I approached the Enfield Historical Society, and the president at the time was Bill Friday, who's since deceased, but he helped me with collecting some information that was necessary to give me a better understanding about the whys and the wheres and the wherefores, etc., to help build the book and create the book and create the story. So as I was leveraging the Historical Society, I kind of naturally was kind of sucked into a vacuum and became part of the Historical Society. And then when Bill was passing, he stepped away from the presidency, and I asked if I could, throw my name or hat in the ring, and they said, sure, go ahead. I said, well, I'm a new guy in town. He said, that's okay.
Yeah.
So I did, and then voted in as a president. It was about maybe 3.5 years ago at that time.
So leading into that, tell us sort of about the Historical Society, like how'd that all get started? How far back does the society go?
Well, I'd like to tell you that I'm a good historian about the Historical Society, but I'm really not the best person to give you to fill those gaps in. I only arrived in the scene in 2018, so I don't have a lot of history here myself. But I knew there was a predecessor to the Historical Society, and the Historical Society came about from another entity, kind of morphed from one into the other. I know they were very instrumental in saving this building that we're in right now, because it was slated for demolition in the late 60s, early 70s, termite infested, and the town manager had even said, okay, I'll sign off on taking it down. But they reached out to the Historical Society at that point, and the Historical Society stepped up and then rebuilt the entire foundation to the old town hall and saved it. And as part of that, continued the 100-year lease on the building, which is expired a couple of years ago, but we hope to renew that soon. So it's,
and the museum's kind of like in like a little historical
it's in the
triangle here, because you got the museum here.
That's right.
Across the street's the Congregational Church that's been here since
forever.
Time began.
Right.
And then you got the first one of the first town fire departments right next door.
Sure. Well, actually, there was a fire engine in this building as well. So this building was actually across the street. Moved from that position to this position. We think it may have been turned. We're not sure, because we think the front was on this side of the building, but now, of course, on this side of the building. And in fact, we still have some of the fire engine hoses inside the wall here.
Oh, okay.
So you can take a look at those and
Yeah.
still see those. But the fire engine was on the first floor and went out, I believe, toward Enfield Street, the same way that the EMS vehicles exit. So yeah, this has been a meeting house. It's been a town hall. It's been served a number of different purposes over the years. So it's well used and itself has a great history to it. But you say it's also in the historic district.
Yeah.
So it's one of the fulcrums of the area.
So if folks wanted to possibly help with that project and other projects here at the museum and the society, how would they go about doing that?
Well, certainly they can call the museum itself, which the number is on our website. Or they can call me personally on my own cell phone, 203-494-2678. I put it out there. I'm happy to get anybody's phone calls or texts. I get them at all different hours of the day, but I'm happy to get those and return the phone calls as they come in. And in fact, I was just talking to someone before you arrived who had left a message on the answering machine downstairs, and she's looking to get involved with helping us to kind of reimagine some new installations that we hope to put into the museum. Things like installation about the boxing arena used to be here in town in Thompsonville. So hopefully anybody with any skill level or interest, whether they're young, 15, 16, or all the way up to and through retirement years, anyone who has some time or interest in getting involved is we're more than welcome to give us a call, and we're happy to speak with them.
Or check out the website, which is
www, of course we don't have to say it anymore, EnfieldHistoricalSociety.org or .com.
Okay. So thanks for talking with us a little bit. We're going to walk around the museum. You're going to show us some cool things here around the museum, and we'll be back with that in just a bit.
Great.
Here on Focus. All right, so now we're down on the first floor, which is where the main stuff happens down here. You have all the main displays down here. And this is probably one of the bigger displays you have is for the Powder Hollow Colonel Hazard factory.
Right.
Tell us about some of the stuff you got in here that's pretty cool. You got this big bellows, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, well, one of the things we tried to do here was a different take on, or a different approach to presenting information about either individuals or events or businesses that were here in town. So what we did, we worked with a student, a graduate student from Massachusetts to Springfield College, and she helped us kind of reimagine this entire installation. So now what you do is you're able to follow a timeline all the way from 1828 up to 1914 of events that occurred during the period that this gunpowder manufacture was active, or in its infancy all the way through its destruction in 1913, and then the final death that can be attributed to the mill in 1914. But you're able to follow it from England, where gunpowder manufacturing really was at its peak, and that's where Hazard and his other partners stole most of their qualified gunpowder makers. Skilled
headhunting, as they call it.
Yeah, basically, if you will. Brought them over here to work in Enfield or in Hazardville, which it was later named. And then we get into the actual makeup of what gunpowder, or how it's constructed, and we have the actual parts here, so that if you wanted to, and our backs are turned, you could make some gunpowder behind our backs. But we say we'd rather you not do that. Then, of course, along the Scantic River, we've got some information about Hazard himself. That bellows was from one of the manufactories along the Scantic River. It actually would hang just the opposite, so it would hang down, so that it would open and close and keep the coals hot for manufacturing. That may have even been in one of the mills where they would manufacture tools or remanufacture equipment that was used on the site. And then, of course, we follow it through all the way from when Hazard purchased his interest in the mills to the competing mill up in Hazard Powder, which is about 3 miles upstream. And then when DuPont enters and purchases the mill after Hazard dies in New York City. And then in the final explosion, it takes place in January 14th in 1913, where 3 mills blow in sequence. And the interesting thing about that is that along the Scantic at the time was a film crew, believe it or not, on the Scantic River. Now somewhere in someone's attic or an archive somewhere, there's actual film of movie film of the manufactory and possibly the explosion as well. Now they didn't allow anybody on the site after the explosion because first of all, they didn't want anybody seeing dead bodies. And the second is chemicals, etc. And then there could have been further explosions. So for safety concerns, Prickett shut the mill down, and then they paid one photographer to come through and shoot some of the explosions that had occurred for insurance purposes. So, but now you're able to move through the entire operation from beginning all the way until to the end, and it makes sense to someone. So rather than just seeing a piece of old equipment, you get some interesting information around it so you can understand the whys and the wheres.
Yeah, and he's a very interesting gentleman, Colonel Hazard.
Yeah, he was.
So,
he, you know, some of the lore is that he sold during the Civil War to both the North and the South.
Yes.
And if he did, it wasn't on purpose. One way to get gunpowder to the South, well, there are two ways actually. One is if the South raided a northern site and stole the gunpowder. And the second is if Hazard sold powder to Europe, and then Europe would resell it to the South. So that could be a circuitous way to bring northern Hazard powder to the South. Although it was used at the beginning, at the onset of the war against the northern troops. It was an interesting piece of.
And I saw otherwise on the floor here you have some cans from the powder mill and stuff.
Yeah, we do. We have some actual cans. We haven't put them up here, although we have one here, and some of these other smaller ones, which are actually used to store powder that you take out into the field with you to fill up.
Put in your gun.
To fill your gun up.
Enfield rifle, maybe.
It could be.
But yeah, so there's some other fun things we're going to take a look at, and we'll check them out right now. All right, now we're at probably the biggest landmark in Enfield that I know of. I don't know if there's anything bigger than it. But Bigelow, the old carpet factory, which is now apartment buildings.
Right.
But yeah, you guys have tons of stuff from there. Tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, and it's actually scattered throughout the museum. We've got pieces downstairs, actual weaving pieces of equipment downstairs that probably could be turned on and cranking out carpet tomorrow, although we're reluctant to do so. I still don't understand how they would have come up with the designs and actually had the thread come through and so that the carpet would come out with the designs on it, but it was a lot smarter people running those pieces of equipment than I am. But again, it was narrow in the beginning, and then they went to a much more broad loom later on. But it was an amazing story of a innovation and an entrepreneurship starting in the 1830s and ending in the 1971, I think, when they finally exited town. But they were one of the largest, if not the largest, employer in not just Thompsonville, obviously, but within Enfield itself.
And they basically built, like not really built, but basically built Thompsonville. Because everyone
not only built Thompsonville, but they populated Thompsonville. They brought the Scots and the Irish and the Italians and the Poles and the French Canadians and wave after wave of immigrants populated Thompsonville, and they were all skilled labor. Some were unskilled, but as the equipment became more user friendly, if you will, and required a little less skill, then you could have less skilled people operating the machinery. But in the beginning, you needed very skilled weavers to produce carpets, which they did. And the reason they were able to do that is kind of funny, especially in this day and age with the word tariff, is the tariffs were increased on imported carpets, which made manufacturing carpet within the country doable.
Yeah.
So that's why Thompson actually got into the carpet manufacturing business at the time.
Oh, okay.
It's an interesting story. Yeah.
And you're showing, before we got over here to look at this, there's you have two big
books.
books.
Let me grab that, if you will.
Yeah.
And
but there's two big books that are from like World War II era.
yeah,
so they're like production.
Yeah, so
books?
part of during World War II, part of Bigelow was pressed into service to create rugs, not rugs, but
Other equipment and stuff.
equipment for
Like linen.
blankets and things like that for the war effort. And these are absolute beautiful produced books which detail what was going on at the carpet mill at the time. And it's all, hand lettered. World War II accomplishments, Bigelow Sanford Carpet Company, Thompsonville plant. And it's all hand colored, hand drawn, and it also includes a number of photographs of not just the individuals who were in charge of the plant at the time, but also the workers, men and women on the floor doing the actual work. And our hope is to be able to digitize all of this, put it up online so that it just doesn't sit in a drawer in the Historical Society Museum, but people can actually take a look at it and admire not just the artwork in here.
Yeah, because the art itself's its own
It's
artifact on
absolutely
its own. It's like
one
of a kind. You're not
and it's
gonna
really
see it
dated
anywhere
to the
else.
time. It is, and of course the photographs as well of the people who are working in the factory. It's timeless. It's another piece of history that should be viewed and enjoyed by as many people as possible.
Yeah, and the one thing that people might not know, and I know I forget about all the time, is that it wasn't like we always call it in Enfield Bigelow.
Right.
But it was really Bigelow Sanford was the official name of the company.
It was Bigelow Sanford because they purchased Sanford and they moved the Massachusetts plant and individuals who wanted to move down to, and they also had a plant out in out the Midwest. I can't remember exactly where
Ohio,
that was.
maybe?
It's possibly.
Columbus,
I know it was
South
out in the Midwest somewhere. And that was later shut down, and then that work was shifted over to Thompsonville. And eventually, after they got into the boat building business, tried a little diversification for about 3 or 4 years, they exited town finally, and they moved south because labor was cheaper.
Yeah, labor is how it works out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is awesome. This has all been great. There is one piece that we're going to end our stuff on that is sitting right over there that I've been staring at this whole time I've been here. And it's probably the coolest thing for a video guy to see. So we'll be over there. We'll wrap up in just a minute.
Great.
Here on Focus. So another fun part of the museum you have is you have a little section here on the schools in town, which there's been tons throughout the years, between elementary schools moving and closing and reopening and distribution of things. You mentioned earlier the Wallop School, which is the one-room schoolhouse. Was that the original one in town?
No, in fact, there was another one before that. And in fact, there were a number of different districts in town, and I think there was a West Wallop, I believe, at one point. But this Wallop School is still in existence. It's the third iteration of it because it's burned down twice. But this is the third iteration of it. But it's still in the same footprint, and we still have the same outhouse in the backyard. Non-functional, of course. But we do have tours there during the summer, and people can come visit. And we do have some photographs from back then, both in the summertime and in the wintertime. And then we've got a number of photographs from a number of the other schools here, whether they be high schools or middle schools or elementary schools.
And in some of them, of Enfield High. And
exactly, and some of the interesting thing is when you see some of the kids standing outside, especially in the Wallop School, some of them have no shoes on.
Yeah.
And then I also realized from one of our newest docents, Tara Hebert, who's helping us along. She was saying that that the boys really didn't go to school until the winter time.
Yes.
Because the boys would work
farm.
obviously the farms during
Yeah.
the summer, and then they would go to school
Yeah.
in the winter. And at the time, then they would have male teachers for the boys because
Yeah.
the boys were a little rowdier than the
Yeah.
girls at the time.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. But in addition to the photographs and photographic history of the schools, we also have a number of the
Yearbooks.
and other publications that would either present information about the kids or the teachers during the time, and they're welcome to come in to the museum to peruse them, to see if you can find your grandmother or your mom,
Which we found
or your
my
dad,
mom,
and of course you found your mom there.
First graduating class of Fermi High School in 1972.
1972, and in fact we've got some, they go back to, here's Enfield Echo back to 1928, and we have some that go back even further than that. We've got a Tatler for 1955 and an Echo here in the 1965. So we've got a whole range and a whole span, and we're always looking for others that we may have missed.
Yeah.
So if you do have any of the old publications, please give us a call, and if you're looking to offload or donate, we may be able to take those, especially if we don't have those as of yet.
I do see you have a Kosciuszko band uniform, I believe.
Yeah, we do. We have band
think
uniforms. We've had baseball uniforms as well upstairs, but certainly the bands are well represented, as well as cheerleaders in a baseball wool uniform.
Yeah.
I can't see you wearing a wool uniform in the middle
that
of
was the way they
summer
were
playing.
back in the
I'd
day,
probably pass out in center field, not from boredom, but simply from heat stroke.
Yeah, and then for the folks who don't know, the Kosciuszko High School is now Nuntuck.
Really? Yeah.
That's the college now. That's what Kosciusko was.
There you go.
And
See,
they took it over.
I learn something every day.
Yeah, it's now a community college. So so there's so much more to check out. We got one more big thing we're going to check out, and then we'll wrap it up in just a bit. All right, and as we get ready to wrap up the show today, I want to thank you for your time. This has been amazing.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
It's been a lot of stuff that I haven't seen in years, and some stuff that didn't even know was a thing. But the coolest thing that I've seen here is this projector. And is this the actual projector from the Strand Theater?
Yeah, well, it probably speaks to the videographer in you.
It does.
Yes. But yes, this was recovered from the Strand Theater right before it was torn down in the center of town. There were at least two, possibly three, but this is one. This is the most complete piece that was recovered and then cleaned up, put back together, and it's got all the parts that would allow it to project a film if it needed today. In fact, we still have, one of the reels that would have gone on there, and this is Silent Partner Reel
5.
Reel 5. So
right at the end of the movie, you would probably say. Usually like 4 to 5 frames per movie.
And I don't know if they ran them in tandem. Like I know they used to. They would run one.
They'd run one, and then the second one would be ready. And then once the second one would start, the guy would take the first one out, put the third one in.
Oh, is that how it would work?
And then they do that with the fourth, and then that's how it would go.
I do remember watching films even when I was a kid, not to date myself, but every once in a while these would get caught, and you'd see the hole start to burn.
The guy would get caught up in another theater.
That's right, and then you'd have to shut down, wait for a minute, everybody take a break,
splice it, cut it back together, move it back together.
That's right.
Yeah. So besides that, is this also original railing from?
It's one of the railings that was recovered from the inside as well, cleaned up and repainted.
Wow.
This is not, the columns I do not believe are true, although it's quite possible that they are, but it was all cleaned and tried to present it in its best light. And when the kids come, it's interesting. I say to them, today, it's easier to carry a movie projector in your pocket than it is to put this in your back pocket.
That's for sure. Yeah. That is for sure. But it's great. It's amazing to see that it's still as intact as it was, because that building was closed for so long before it finally succumbed to time.
Yeah. Well, it did. They did try, a valiant effort to save it, but it was just at some point
too
unrecoverable.
Far gone,
too far gone. But it's nice that we're able to have it here, and we can put it in a position where people can come in and view it and learn a little bit of the history of film viewing in town, as well as other theaters
Yeah.
that we have in a case right next to it, so people can learn about
Yeah.
how many different theaters there were in town.
There's been a lot.
Yeah.
There's been a few.
Yeah.
But with that, we're going to wrap up this episode of Focus. Thank you again, Peter, for giving us a tour. If people wanted information about the museum, they go check out.
Well, they can check out our Facebook page, Enfield Historical Society. They can check out our actual webpage, Enfield Historical Society. I believe it's .org. If not, it's .com. Check them both out. Or they can call me directly on my home phone, which is 203-494-2678. If you have any questions, if you want to come in during the off season for a personal tour, you can reach out and we're happy to accommodate.
Or if you want to join the Historical
Or if you want to join the Historical Society,
can also be a part of doing all this.
Yeah, we're always looking for people
Yeah.
who have certain skill sets. You don't have to have a lot of time. We can put you in touch with other individuals here who are working on short-term projects or long-term projects. Or if you want to become a member of the board and you're that into history, we're happy to invite you and accommodate you and bring on as many individuals with new ideas as possible.
Well, yeah, so definitely, if you're into all that stuff, definitely check it out. Also, Peter has mentioned it yet, but he does have his own TV show as well on our channel that you can check out. The name of the show again is
Spirited Interviews.
Yes, they're very well done. You have Joe D. Ambrosia that helps
Yeah.
you out with those.
Yeah.
They're very fantastic. You can find them on our on-demand on the channel.
And we'll
as
be
well.
doing more over the winter.
Yeah, so stay tuned for those as well. And again, thanks again for having us in, and we'll see you next time here in Focus.
Thanks.